All right, you guys, welcome back to the channel. Today is a very exciting day. We are going to review this here 2020 Mercedes-Benz CLA45 AMG. Let's go check it out. Okay, so regardless of what you think of the color, there is no denying under the hood here is a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder. In fact, the most powerful 4-cylinder on the market today. It pumps out 382 horsepower in this North American application here. And in fact, it is paired with AMG's new 4MATIC Plus all-wheel drive system. You can see the badge right there. And in short, basically what that means is it can send up to 100% of the torque to either the front or the rear wheels, which gets me very excited. So let's get out on the road and see how it drives. Traction just going nuts at half throttle. It's a little wet out today, you guys, but nonetheless, we are out here in the 2020 CLA45 AMG. This is the second generation of the CLA45 and is part of the family of now transverse mounted AMG products. And of course, that means this has a 2-liter 4-cylinder engine under the hood, obviously turbocharged, making a lot of power, and we'll get to that. But it is transversely mounted, so it is not what a traditional AMG car in the past would be, which is a properly mounted V8 long ways down the car, sending power exclusively to the rear wheels. But it's 2020, times have changed, and we're gonna go for a drive and see if the CLA45 has improved over the last generation. First things out of the way, we're gonna go right out of comfort mode into Sport Plus, why not? I do have my individual settings set in which I do keep the suspension in comfort, and that's just so I can have the nice sound and everything still around town and shift myself. But the ride isn't so harsh that way. So that 4-cylinder under the hood is actually, yes, the most powerful 4-cylinder engine in production today. It makes 382 horsepower, I believe just above 350 pound-feet of torque. Now, I'll get this out of the way first. We are in Canada, and this is a Canadian market car, right? Unfortunately for us here in North America, we do not get the CLA45 AMG S that Europe gets of this generation. And they actually get quite a big power boost, up to, I believe, about 416 horsepower. So I guess that tuned version of this engine is the most powerful production 4-cylinder, not this specific one. But nonetheless, it is ridiculously quick. So a few weeks ago, we did a feature video on a very heavily modified and custom 800 wheel horsepower Mitsubishi Evo 8. Now in the past, that segment was kind of very small. Back in the 90s and mid-2000s, that was dominated exclusively by the STI and the Evo. Both manual cars, both all-wheel drive, both with transversely mounted 4-cylinder turbo engines. Do you get where I'm going here with this? This is a modern STI. In fact, my friend Sid really brought this to my attention and kind of helped me see the light in terms of where this car is trying to fit in and replace potentially the Evo and cars like the STI in the market and kind of create its own segment that is that really well-executed formula, just with a modern luxury twist. Instead of a manual, you have a dual clutch. And instead of a, like in that Evo 8, a less than ideal interior, I guess you could say, you do have some amazing materials, and you have the luxury that those other two cars historically have been lacking in that experience. So with that as some context, we're gonna go for a little bit of a drive. Has to be said, this is way more expensive than either an Evo would have been or an STI is currently. Now the 4MATIC Plus has been in a few Mercedes models in the past, and now it's basically trickling down, much like this interior, from the top of the line six-figure AMG models, which this is not. So effectively in those bigger AMG cars, you could send up to 100% of the torque to the rear wheels so that you could go drifting if you so desire. It still has that rear wheel drive playfulness. And I believe the E63 AMG, the most current generation, was the first to do that out of AMG's lineup. And I mean, that's just over the top. You have an all-wheel drive car when you need it, and you have a rear-wheel drive proper AMG experience when you want it. This has the same. So look at that, a transversely mounted four-cylinder that can send all the power to the rear wheels. 2020 is a crazy time, you guys. And I think if you were to only drive this in a vacuum, it would just seem like a hyped up CLA, when in reality, it is kind of an STI Evo formula, just taken more to the luxury side, and with modern performance, with modern track performance. Very fast. Twin entry turbo as well, so you have that split in the exhaust manifold. Spools up the turbo incredibly quickly, and that definitely plays a role in how much torque this thing puts down and how early in the power band that torque actually stays around. But here we go, let's hit some corners here. We are in independent, so I have kept the suspension in comfort. It soaks up bumps around here a little bit better, just because the pavement isn't perfect. Dual clutch is very responsive. You only really feel that those rear axles engage, and that twin disc clutch and the differential really start to get aggressive when you're powering out of a corner. That's when you really notice it. Although as you saw there, you still definitely get some understeer in the rain, as these are performance tires. But yeah, on entry, it's better slow in, fast out, especially with this car, so that you can kind of predict that understeer, and on your way out you can just use the throttle to kind of steer your way out and power out of the corner. You don't really have to give it much steering input. It'll just unwind just kind of naturally. It's definitely an improvement over the first gen. Absolutely. If that's the main kind of focus here, if we're looking at, we did a review in 2017 on the first generation CLA45 AMG. And so it's a worthwhile comparison to make 3 years later to see how much time and how much research and development Mercedes-AMG has actually put into their four-cylinder AMG products, which is not traditionally a part of the market where AMG thrives. You know, in my mind, AMG, at least in the past, really thrived with that E63 AMG, the C63 AMG, and that 6.2 liter engine. And nowadays they're making fantastic cars with the AMG GT, which we also drove in LA. So these are my favorite AMG products, the bottom of the line AMG products, if you want to call them that. It's still an exceptionally premium experience. But now I feel like with this generation, there's absolutely enough to chew on here to get both the daily driver and the automotive enthusiast inside you to have some fun and have some excitement without guzzling so much gas that it just becomes a chore to actually take it out of the garage and drive it. If you're not on throttle, you are getting very good fuel economy in the CLA, which can't be said about some of the especially the older NA V8s that AMG was putting out about 10 years ago. The car's fun, the car's fast, the interior is great, you have everything you need here. In fact, this does have the technology package. Included in that are the LED headlights, the multi-beam LED headlights, and a few other exterior accents. It has the night package as well, and you get this gloss black and a few other things like the AMG wheels that you see on here. It has the premium package, which effectively gives you all the safety features that you absolutely need out of an AMG. I mean, you're not going to be spending this kind of money on one of these to not have those safety features that are essentially standard on most even lower tier, you know, $40,000, $45,000 vehicles. So because this is not the S version like they get in Europe, we do not have race mode actually. So you don't actually have all of the features and all of the settings that you do on the European models. You also get those incredibly ugly bumper pieces on the rear end for the North American markets. Can't escape that. That's just safety regulations here. Looks terrible though. Oh my God.
Waking up, I'm feeling good. A little nervous, but I know I should take a breath and give it my best. I'll put on a show for you that you'll never forget.
So as soon as I sat inside the CLA45 for the first time, I have to say I was really blown away by the amount of tech and the overall layout and design of the interior. Now, the first thing you notice, obviously, is this really cool looking double screen display up front. Now, the screens and the software themselves are really modern looking, really easy to navigate through, and just looks really crisp. So looking straight ahead of you, you obviously have your speedometer, but what Mercedes has given you is the ability to actually modify it and customize it, the display, for your liking. So using this trackpad on the left-hand side of the steering wheel, you can actually scroll through the menus and change the display depending on what information you want to see. So I can set the right side to actually display a miniature map of where I am, as well as you can change it to the left side of the radio stations, G-force. There's so many options you can go through. That kind of brings me to a little bit of a complaint I have with the car. And that is they've tried to make a more modern scrolling button, so to speak, by giving you these two trackpads. And personally, even though I kind of like where they're going with it, I find it a bit impractical and more so a bit distracting while driving. They're very sensitive, and I find myself constantly having to look down to see what's actually illuminated and what is changing, as you can scroll up, down, side to side, and also click it. So I find that it takes my attention off the road as I'm trying to figure out what's going on. So another cool feature that they have introduced with all new AMG models is this trackpad down here. This allows you to control your infotainment system right above. And honestly, it does work quite well, but it's a little bit gimmicky in certain areas. So one of the features they give you is the ability to actually draw out letters on the pad instead of typing it in manually, which in essence would be a great idea. However, I find it not to be the most accurate and a little bit finicky to use. Now looking up from there, you have the wireless charging pad. And unfortunately, I will have to say, I've had some issues with it. Now, those issues are mainly based because I have a case on my phone, but I find it really finicky because you have to position your phone just in the right spot to have it charge. Now, even though I have had the same case on my phone in other cars, I haven't had this issue with BMWs or even Hyundais for that matter. But for some reason, I'm just really struggling trying to get a good connection with my phone. But anyways, let's hop back in the car with Marcus and finish up the review.
So steering in Sport Plus definitely weights up and is very precise. The back end likes to step out a little bit, surprisingly enough. Definitely balances a fine line between understeer and oversteer. That differential in the rear definitely catches it quick though, absolutely. If you've got traction on and, you know, even in the wet here, it catches it very quick. But you know, it's precise. The AMG, most people are not going to have any complaints as far as the inputs go on this car. But if you're used to some of the older, less tech-focused AMG cars, then I would say that's definitely something to think about. It's not perfect. No car is. But as far as complaints go, I mean, it's a first world problem. The steering's not perfect, and you know, that's about it. The car's loud when you need it to be loud. It's not loud when you don't want it to be loud. And it does track things. Now, the heat on these cars, the heat management, because they did flip the engine, actually. Another fun fact, they actually totally did a 180-degree flip on that engine. So now the turbo is on, the turbo and exhaust manifold are on the firewall side and not in the front of the engine. And that's basically to help create this new look for the CLA, which is basically kind of targeting the eyes of the people that really lust after the AMG GT Coupe. Those cars are gorgeous, very massive executive sedans, and now the CLA kind of has a taste of that styling. So because we don't have a track nearby, we can't show you guys any real laps of this car. We are going to try a 0 to 60 test in drag race mode in the wet here. So we'll set up launch control, and then we'll see how close to that claimed 4.0 0 to 60 miles per hour time that Mercedes claims. So that's 0 to 100 kilometers an hour, or about 96 here in Canada. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, what did we get here? Got to enter in that it was raining, 12 degrees Celsius outside, and we did 0 to 60 in 4.49 seconds. Dang, we got really close. Half a second off the quoted time from AMG, and that's got to be on like a perfectly prepped surface. They don't throw around those numbers. But at the same time, judging by what we just laid down, I think they might be playing it a little bit conservative. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. We've got new car reviews. We've got insane modified cars on the channel coming up, and a few Fast and Furious replica cars as well. So look out for those videos. Hit us up on Instagram, and we'll see you guys very soon.